welcome back to The Puff. I am your favorite intellectually heightened furball here on this side of the internet, and today we're going to go over a few topics that caught my eye that weren't really fit to have their own video. This list varies from kinda silly or lighthearted to pretty serious in nature, starting off with it would seem that the FNAF community can't seem to catch a break. The community that came from a phenomenon of a game has had its reputation shifted from one of the most creative to one of the most toxic and drama-ridden communities, and I know that doesn't apply to the majority, but to the degenerative minority that can't seem to just not cause problems for others. While the person in question isn't as bad as the latter, he is an excuse from his persona supposedly not being as authentic as he originally made it seem. Theft King is a FNAF content creator that has a pretty big platform that made a lot of content on FNAF, of course, but many other FNAF-like games, FNAF-adjacent content, and other indie horror games. He was also someone I supported at one point or another, but the blowout he created between him and Pop Go's game dev Kane Carter, frankly, it was very embarrassing to watch, and the list of oopsie poopsies consisting of over-the-top clickbait thumbnails and titles, a lack of morals and reference to Poppy Playtime and the indie company that made it, Mob Games, and his need to be the victim in any and every situation. Yeah, it didn't look very good, and on top of that, he made 2 streams that showed him with his mask off and frankly kind of showed people how terrible he can be when stuff doesn't go his way, even if it genuinely wasn't that big of a deal. He handled it poorly and very immaturely, and while he has acknowledged it, it's still quite shocking that he acted that way, and seeing that he's about 7 years or so my senior, it's disappointing at best. He has apologized for what he said on his stream, and since then it would seem he hasn't completely recovered from his mask off moment, but only time will tell if he truly meant what he said about earning back the trust of his viewers. For a much more in-depth and informative take on the situation, I encourage you to watch Kane's response to the mess and Lance's video on it. I'll leave the links below. Back on July 29th, a wild Will Smith had reappeared after a self-imposed 3-month hiatus after the event at the Oscars this year. And it's so bad. It truly doesn't sound genuine, as it's very overproduced and selective with the questions chosen to be answered. But let me make one thing very clear. The only person that this apology truly matters to is Chris Rock. And everyone's saying, if it were me, I wouldn't accept this apology. It's not you though. So, I also can't say I don't like Will Smith. I was an admirer and thought of him as a good person. I still do, but as he mentioned, he had to do some soul searching, and I just hope it worked, and we don't have any more embarrassing emotional outbursts like this again. Everyone loves a good dipping sauce to go with their chicken or fries or to slather all over whatever dish they desire. I understand that we Americans haven't had a new or popular condiment in a long time, so I get the want for a new flavor to enhance our foods, but this has to be the most concerning and kind of dangerous attempt I've ever witnessed. Pink sauce. I know you've seen it around, either the videos of the creator herself eating it on everything, the videos of people who ordered this sauce seeing it for the first time, or the video of the creator making a fool out of herself when saying that her product does not contribute to your health and it didn't need to be approved by the FDA as it's not medicine, which, by the way, the F in FDA stands for food, so that's not concerning in any way, shape, or form.
What do you mean FDA approved? I don't sell medical products. The pink sauce is not a medical product. The pink sauce don't contribute to your health.
Like, I get it. You're tired of ketchup. Mustard is a maybe. Mayo, to me at least, is nasty, and everything else you probably don't have a taste for, or maybe never even heard of yet. Which broaden your taste horizons, I promise you. Just don't do it with this sauce, as it's allegedly made people sick already, and I personally see it as a lawsuit waiting to happen. Also, I don't know how you think of making a new food product without making sure all your T's are crossed and I's dotted. I know it's cool that she wanted to make this her business, as it is a bit of an open field, as condiments are important to many people, but don't get distracted by the potential bag you'd get just to neglect food safety. According to her, it reportedly tastes like ranch, but kinda sweet. And in my honest opinion, if that's the case, just go get some red food coloring and sugar and you can have your own pink sauce without spending $20 on Pepto-botulism. Cancel culture. Ineffective at best, overbearing at its worst, and at least in this case, very misguided and accusatory. So this time around, the thing that got a lot of people mad at Pewdiepie was the assumption, emphasis on assume, that he was making fun of a deaf girl. But not just any deaf girl, a black deaf girl. Cause he said in "I that one time when he was really angry and that makes him racist. Also note that's not how that works. Racially insensitive, yes. But being racist? As a term itself losing its meaning as people love to throw that around like a fucking boomerang? No. What he was doing was making fun of her long nails, and yeah, I get why he did it, and it's not that big of a deal. Everyone else made it a bigger issue than it should have been. He was literally only making fun of her nails and the sounds they made as she signed. I also can understand how he didn't take into account that she was deaf. It honestly took me a good while to figure out what the fuck was going on, but for people to really get this upset and blow this out of proportion, I know it's common nowadays, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. Please stop.
Stop it. Get some help.
Go outside. Interact with the world around you, though being around nature is your best bet. It'll do you some good, I promise. So now we are going to talk about how Omnia has recently made a severe blunder that I personally would like to just talk about, as it bothered me this much. I am not interested in the drama considering the art mess. I'll let someone else handle that. What I'm interested in is challenging their audacity to categorize what is and isn't trauma, in a way gatekeeping it, and on top of that saying this with no authorization or even understanding that using a generalization of such a nuanced and individually unique experience is beyond disrespectful. Before I say my piece, let's have them explain what they feel is trauma and what is drama.
When you search up trauma on Google, this is what comes up. A deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Emotional shock following a stressful event or a physical injury, which may be associated with physical shock and sometimes leads to long-term neurosis. Physical injury. When you search up drama on Google, this is what the definition is. A play for theater, radio, or television. An exciting, emotional, or unexpected series of events or set of circumstances. When you look at the second definition of drama, you can kind of see that there is a little bit of similarity, right? It's a exciting, emotional, or unexpected series of events or sets of circumstances. And that's kind of similar to trauma, right? But I would say the main and easy litmus test between trauma and drama is severity, intensity. Always look at how severe or intense that event is. Something traumatic happens to someone, that tends to show up in their body or the way that they behave. So with someone who has experienced a traumatic event, they may get diagnosed with PTSD, they may need increased therapy or medication. Sometimes they have changes in behavior, like somatic changes, for example, weight loss or weight gain. Sometimes they have a lot of nightmares or hallucinations. They can have insomnia, stuff like that. That is often a sign of trauma. Whereas with drama, there tends to be a lot less physical symptoms, though there can be, right? There's just tends to be less intensity, less severity. And that's why I say when you want to distinguish between trauma and drama, the easiest way is to run a litmus test about how severe it is. So with trauma, it tends to be abuse, threats of violence, death, things like that. Whereas with drama, those tend to be pretty lukewarm experiences that a lot of people go through. For example, having a falling out with a friend, or getting a bad grade, or arguing with your parents, or getting offended over something that someone said online. That typically is drama. If you don't think it is something that someone could get PTSD over, that doesn't tend to be something that can fall into trauma.
I don't even really need to explain why this is such a horrible thing to even consider saying. And honestly, this has to be very tone deaf and very ironic, given that they have talked about a traumatic thing another creator went through in a long video series. Again, who are you to classify trauma an unfortunate experience that is unique to every person that has it with no certifiable degree in psychology? Also, on top of that, using the DSM-5, a highly criticized book in the mental health field, is a faux pas. It's not the Bible of mental illnesses. If it was, it probably wouldn't need to be updated as much as it currently does. It's also categorized more as a dictionary, or in more precise terms, a guidebook on how mental illness affects people, the symptoms, and things of that nature. However, they have realized the flaws of their statements. After making a garbage excuse the first time, I will acknowledge that they finally understood the problem with their admittedly wrong take. I appreciate their apology and hope they do much better than this next time. I am going to link a video made by Callie Mara, as she gives another great perspective on the trauma versus drama argument, though there's one thing that she said that I'll paraphrase here. Though it's no one's right to determine which is which, it is much better to be cautious and sensitive to situations that were traumatizing to the person to not make it worse for them. I feel like that's a rule that we as commentators should consider following. I'm sure we all remember our childhood was littered with many kids and teen shows like iCarly and Sam and Cat. One thing that has stayed the same is former child actress Jeanette Mccurdy. Well, there were other things that stayed the same, like the very sketchy producer Dan Schneider and his very predatory behavior on the multiple sets of his shows, his gross display of fetishes in said shows, among other things. But we're not talking about that foot freak. We're talking about Jeanette's recent memoir that she released, I'm Glad My Mom Died. Quick note, I honestly love the vintage looking cover of this book. I have yet to read it, but I'm very interested to hear her experiences in dealing with abusive familial relationships and her difficult time while being an exploited child star back in the times where the well-being of children wasn't a huge concern to everyone around them. However, in the wake of her book's release, a lot of people have proceeded to shame her for not only her book title, but also her statements on her experiences working with Ariana Grande and her resentment towards her. First off, you should definitely excuse yourself from the conversation if you can't fathom the concept of abusive and toxic parents. It's more than annoying as hell to hear people tell others who grew up in a horrible home life to just forgive their parents or not hold grudges against them. They're still your parents. You only have one and they'll only be around for so long. Look, I'm sure you mean well, but please shut the fuck up. Not everyone grows up with loving parents that have done their best to give their child whatever they needed and wanted, instilled good morals into them, and loved them unconditionally. It's quite invalidating to those who got unlucky in the family lottery, and even I, who hasn't had the best life growing up, am in therapy trying to figure out what to do with the conflicting feelings of emotional and mental parental abuse and how to handle the relationship moving forward. The best thing for you to do is, if you haven't experienced this, is to sympathize with the person going through this and support them when they need it. I, for one, support Jeanette. I bless her and hope that she'll continue to heal and prosper despite her trauma, and I cannot wait to read her book. Hold on. It sold out the first day on Amazon? Damn, this book really got y'all back into reading, huh? Second time's the charm, I guess. Squizzy Slash Hyojin is an animation YouTuber that has been in controversy before in regards to the Slazo situation. I'll leave videos in the description that'll go in depth into what happened, but essentially she was involved in and endorsed the abuse accusations against Slazo and has been one of many people that got quite a lot of backlash for not properly apologizing. It's alleged that they have apologized since, but the clip from the stream in which they did so is lost to time. Now, more recently, she's found herself on the other side of abuse allegations, and it's both ironic and sad that this happened when she once said that abuse allegations shouldn't be swept under the rug. Creator Punk Duck has released his statement detailing what happened in his abusive relationship with her, and it's tough to read and listen to, but does show how horrible of a partner Squizzy was to him. She had apologized twice, once privately to Punk Duck, then publicly about a week after the statement, though after reading them, to me at least, they don't sound very genuine. And this also isn't the first time that she had to apologize for something that really hurt someone else. But I do encourage you to come to your own conclusions about this whole thing, and I'll link the posts and videos explaining everything below. She did say that she'll take a long break until she's better, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Into the sketchy situation involving Disrupt and the two co-founders Jack and Jordan. Disrupt is a channel that makes content based on tech. They've talked about computer viruses, hackers, and some digital experiments. A lot of it is very informative and quite entertaining to watch, as the videos are very well scripted, animated, and directed. And despite the situation happening now, I do encourage you to watch a few of their videos if you're interested. But the problem is that Jack had made 2 videos that are now deleted, talking about how he wanted to sell a portion of the channel, almost like a stock, to help out the team working on the content for the channel and the exclusive site Disrupt Plus. However, while it's advertised as a crowdfunding campaign, how would that work in tandem with the investment thing? It just didn't make sense. On top of that, he says that the channel is valued at $10 million while being in $500,000 worth of debt. And now you see how this is starting to sound a little sus. Oh, not to mention, the portion of his channel he's trying to sell is the other half of his partner's ownership of the same company. Ooh, baby, I am getting a whiff of scam from this. But I'm gonna link CoffeeZilla's video talking more in depth about it and also going over many of the other numbers my brain can't handle right now. So, the last thing we'll get into today is the notorious self-proclaimed comedian and commentary channel boy Def Noodles, otherwise known as Dennis Fitoza. This guy has refused to learn any of the lessons that he should have learned from his previous controversies, like misreporting stories, especially those that are more serious in nature, like child abuse and things like that, losing a Twitter account for some time due to said misreporting, constantly trying to defend his title as a comedian, even though it's very rare when he's intentionally funny, his defamation lawsuit with Keemstar, keep that in mind by the way, and now his recent drama including an in-person roast battle to see who can handle the heat. I will never understand how you want to sit here and claim that you can handle the heat, and yet anyone who comes to criticize you, you immediately melt down and fall back on your bullshit excuse that you're a comedian in any way. Also, his recent mess, so to speak, that he created with fellow creator Papa Gut, in which Dennis has been saying Papa Gut looks like a pedophile, and honestly really harping on that point to where people would think that would actually be the case. Remember that lawsuit he has with Keemstar? Yeah, it's basically the same thing, just the tables turned and Dennis is the one accused of being a pedophile, but frankly at this point it's been even more of a headache hearing his name in the news for his variety of fuck-ups till this point, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, as his need to defend his poor behavior even after 35 plus years of experience, and yet he still acts like a very sensitive and tactless little boy, is beyond annoying. Hopefully he grows up or something might come along to make him mature really fast. Well, those are all the stories in recent times that piqued my interest enough to talk about them in this episode of The Puff. What are your thoughts on some of the topics? Have you or someone you know tried the pink sauce? Thinking of reading Jeanette's book? Does investing in a YouTube channel sound like a good way to grow your money? Let me know in the comments below. But other than that, I am your neighborhood stoner space cat. Stay high, stay hydrated, stay out of trouble, please. And I will catch you all next time. Bye-bye.